Everyone, I'm Perry from Unga Guitars and the Unga School of Guitar Making, and I'm here today to share with you how to unlock your creative genius. So let's get into this. What is creative genius? Standard operating equipment. Whether you're a teacher, a parent, and plumber, something we're all born with. So how do you use creative genius, or even better yet, what might block creative genius? I'll give you a hint. Have you ever had a project that you're stuck on, or like writer's block when it comes to guitar design? Something I've certainly experienced. And I've found that when I get in my own way and choose to get out of my own way, I unlock my creative genius. I allow creativity to flow. So let's get into the 3 blocks of creative genius and how to pivot away from them and turn these stops into steps. The 3 blocks to creative genius are, number 1, fear of the unknown, number 2, being a victim, and number 3, fighting for control. How do we work through these blocks? We notice the behavior or the thoughts, we pause, and we pivot by choosing to change these thoughts and behaviors, knowing that they are all limiting our creative genius. Number 1, fear of the unknown. Dun, dun, dun. Also known as the mother of them all. Why is this? Fear of the unknown leads into the next 2 blocks. Fear of the unknown is known for saying things like, I can't, I don't know how, I've never done this before. What if I fail? Maybe you bought a piece of wood or like a guitar kit or something with the idea of putting this together or getting this project started, and had all these crazy thoughts, which became reasons to not do them. So how do we pause and pivot from this? Well, we pause and then we pivot, and the pivot in this case is going to be finding the resolve to move forward, to turn this stop into a step. A great example of this is the excuse. We'll start with the excuse. I don't have time. I have kids. I have a job. Let's use me as an example. If I have a pie chart right here, if this guitar was a pie chart and it showed all the hours in my day, it'd probably read out, and I don't know if the math is going to be correct. I sleep for about 6 hours. I might spend about 2 hours eating. I eat a lot. Maybe I spend about 8 hours in my shop, and the rest of the time is quality time spent with Allison. If you were to break that down and look at those numbers, you would see that those slices show that I value sleeping, working in my shop, and spending time with Allison. So if you take stock of your day and you look at what you spend the most time doing, that might give you an idea of what you are choosing to value. And if that is not something that you are excited about when you see it, pause, pivot, look deeper, ask yourself, what do I value? What is important to me? How am I spending my life, which is my time, or my time, which is my life? And choose to change those thoughts and behaviors. Moving right along into number 2, the victim, also known as lack or not enough. The victim is so dangerous to the creative process. It undermines our true value and contribution in the world. As a victim, we are nobody and worth nothing. We can't even influence. The victim mentality is at the effect of outside circumstances. It's happening to me. I'm not enough. I can't. Because I don't have time because these are some of the things the victim says. The victim's always backsliding into the past, drawing conclusions about the present or future based on the dead past. There are no possibilities when you're the victim. An example of this? Well, I can think back to a time when I was at guitar making school and I showed up with my project all drawn out and ready to go. When it came time to submit these ideas, I was told that you can't do that. That's not how we do things here. A great example of operating from the past. That's not how granddad did it, and that's not how we do it. You're going to have to change your idea to something that works with the program. Great example of operating from the past, especially when it comes to, it's one that really sticks to me in my guitar making experience. So how do we pause and pivot? Well, I'm going to start this with a cool story. You ever see a baby at a party? Maybe it's posted up, sitting poolside, hanging out. The baby doesn't care about who's there. Baby doesn't care about what's on its t-shirt, how much food is in his hair, what people are saying about him. The baby is there in the flow, being. That behavior or that way of being is how we get away from being the victim. You are the source of possibility. You are much, much more than enough. There is great value in all of your contributions. Drop the dead weight of the past and catapult into the creative flow. Each of us is a unique recipe of an individual. We all have special gifts and talents. We are inherently valuable as we are. So one more block. Let's get into number 3, that fight for control and its best friend, blame. How many times have you been in the situation where you're at an event, let's say you're at a sports event, and you have the parent screaming at the child at the top of their lungs what they need to do, yet the parent's not participating? Or maybe you're at a gig, maybe you're performing, okay? You're at this gig, you feel like it's all dialed in, you look up at the clock and all you see are crossed arms and unhappy people in the crowd. How does that affect you? How does it feel? Maybe you've been that kid getting yelled at. Certainly uncomfortable to sit near people like that. Maybe you've been the person with the arms crossed. How did you feel when you were going through that? This fight for control, those are examples of the fight for control. The fight for control is known for saying things like would have, could have, should have, as in I would have done that, or I could have done that better, or you should have blah blah blah. Fighting for control restricts the creative flow by limiting its expression. It can only be one way. This need for control, it shuts down the creative process. The pivot to fighting for control is to participate. Get in it. In that instance, when I was being told I could not do something, the first thing I did was I took a risk and I participated. I got in it. I did it anyways, even though my certificate was on the line. I went ahead and did what I wanted to do. And that risk paid off. I still graduated. My guitar worked out just fine. In fact, it was more than just fine. It was fantastic. And I played it. I played it for a really long time until I dumped it off a stage. So overcoming the 3 blocks is a practice. The more that you practice, the better you become at paying attention to these limiting beliefs, and the more you can be in touch with your creative genius. So let's recap. Number 1, fear of the unknown. I can't. Pause. Pivot. What fires you up? Remember, what are you excited about? What do you value? Number 2, the victim or being the victim. I don't even need to say more than that. Pause. Pivot. You are much, much more than enough. And number 3, fighting for control. That's not how we do things. Pause. Pivot. Participate. Get in it. Get excited about it. Loosen up. Well, a little too loose. Too much rosé, I suspect. All these 3 blocks are so crucial to unlocking your creative genius. One thing that I find myself repeating to every single one of my students and a lot of people that inquire about learning how to make guitars or having different workshops on any aspect of luthiery with me, the one thing that I find myself repeating every time is if you want to make guitars, you have to start making guitars. We practice what we want to do. If you want to learn to make guitars, start making guitars. Don't start making excuses like, oh, I need to build a few kit guitars, or maybe I need to buy a few cheap guitars. If you want to buy a few kit guitars, you're going to get really good at building kit guitars. And if you want to soup up a few cheap guitars, you're going to get really good at doing that. And if you want to make excuses, you're going to get really good at making excuses. We really need to practice what we want to do. This is what fires me up. It fires me up to make guitars. It helps me get outside the boxes and all of the old beliefs and crazy ideas that I've heard or that I've picked up. And it fires me up because it's applicable to every part of life. These 3 blocks, they are going to get in your way every time. And now that we know how to pause and pivot, we can now practice these skills and build those creative genius muscles. We can turn all of these stops into starts, into steps every time. It is so crucial. So if you like anything I've had to say, please comment and share your experiences down below. I would love to hear about them. Once again, I'm Perry from Unga Guitars and the Unga School of Guitar Making, and I look forward to seeing you next time.